G'day. Well, I'm here to give you a bit of a update for our mission, Indigenous Ministry Links Australia. Well, it's nearly 40 years since God sent me into the remote Indigenous communities of Northern Australia with a vision and an audible voice, with the verse that I needed to go into the world and make disciples of every people, but particularly the people that God had shown me. I didn't know who they were and where they were at the time, but the Spirit of God led me to the very place that He'd shown me in the vision. You often would think that to go and make disciples is the same as doing evangelistic crusades. But interestingly, after the first crusade I ever did, in which blind eyes opened and cripples walked, broken bones were healed, God told me that that's not what He wanted me to focus on, but He wanted me to focus on making disciples. And so it's taken me a while to figure out what He meant, and to be honest, I'm still learning. But one of the things that I've come to understand is in these remote Indigenous communities, and this is the case with most peoples in the world, that when it comes to the work of local evangelism and even the nurturing of new believers, the foundational disciple making, that local people are the best people to do the job. And so God really spoke to me strongly through Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 12, where He tells us that the job of missionaries, ministers, is to equip the saints, God's people, for the work of the ministry. And so that's what I've been focused on for nearly 40 years now. And so things and how that works has changed over the years. And over the last few years, God has actually spoken to me afresh to say, Carl, I want you to focus on equipping another generation of people for missions. You see, though it's local people who do the best job of evangelism and those foundational discipling work, it often takes somebody to come from somewhere else to convince us that we can do the job. And so it's about building people's faith, not just giving them a lot of information and not even necessarily telling people how to do it, but giving them faith that God has empowered them. He's given them His word and He's given them His Spirit. And we need to believe that God will enable us to do the task that He has given us, though there is teaching involved. And so we've submitted a few photos for you to have a look at. Today we continue to visit and encourage remote Indigenous community Christians, encourage them in the ministry God has called them to. But we're also taking Indigenous Christians from the regions around Australia, from the Oceania Pacifica region, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, Fiji, taking them out into the bush, because our nearest Pacific neighbours are a great encouragement to remote Indigenous Christians. And finally, God is raising up people in Australia and around the world for another mission move. What does that mean? Well, 1/3 of the world of the peoples of the world still do not have a local church nearby to them that can share the gospel and teach them how to follow Jesus. Jesus said that He would come back when this gospel of the kingdom has been preached in all the nations of the earth. He's waiting on us. Some of us are waiting for Jesus to come back. Jesus is waiting for us to get the job done. God bless you.